Well, good morning, everybody, or should I say afternoon? I always forget. We started really early this morning. So happy Monday from the folks of the team here at the Hispano Chamber in the beautiful Duke City, known as Albuquerque, New Mexico. Our weather is fantastic, and I just cannot say that enough. It's a little hot, so if you don't like the heat, stay inside in a nice air-conditioned space while you're staying at home. But it is a beautiful weather today and was a great weekend. So welcome everybody to our Trade Builds New Mexico webinar. This is our July series. We're excited to have a great panel today. We're going to be discussing everything having to do with trade, in particularly new market expansion today. But before we get started and introducing the panel, I sure would like to remind everybody, we'd like to give a big shout out to our sponsor this month for this event, the LIBRE Initiative. We're going to have Ruben speak about that in just a second. Give us just a quick rundown of what they do. We're super excited to partner with them, been members for a very, very long time here at the Hispano Chamber, and we've done many things in the past, so it's exciting to continue the relationship. Another shout out to New Mexico Tech, who are the elves behind the scene, I like to say. If anybody on the panel hears a voice, it's usually because they're fixing something behind if we have any issues or problems. And of course, Angelique is here, part of our team here at the Hispano Chamber to help us get through the next hour. So this whole month, we've been discussing trade. We've been discussing import, export, all the stuff that comes with that, new trade agreements and introducing you to different business owners who have used trade to grow their businesses and have had success stories to share with you. We're going to continue that for the rest of the month. And definitely today we have an exciting guest with us. But before we get started, I want to introduce you to Ruben. Ruben, would you just introduce yourself real quick? Take a second and share with us about what the LIBRE Initiative does.
Yeah, thanks, Shannon. Thanks again for, I think this is number 5 in our webinar series. It's been really awesome. My name is Ruben Guajardo. I am the Community Engagement Director for the LIBRE Initiative here in New Mexico, and very proud and very happy of all the work we get to do. The LIBRE Initiative focuses primarily on the Hispanic community, and our goal is to help members of the Hispanic community and really New Mexicans at large break barriers, whether those barriers be internal or they be external, like not being able to speak English, or needing a driver's license, or having access to the necessary kind of organizations to start a business and those kinds of things. And so one of the barriers that we wanted to talk about this month was trade barriers and tariff barriers, and seeing how those things affect local businesses and business owners here in New Mexico. And so we've had a great start to our webinar series, and we've been talking about lots of issues. I'm very excited for today's topic, which is new markets. And I think we're going to learn a lot from our expert panel today.
Thank you so much, Ruben. And with that being said, will you help us segue into introducing Burley and John? Tell us a little bit about how you began this collaboration. Probably not something we've talked a lot about over the last few webinars, but that way we can introduce them and bring them into the discussion as well.
Yeah, so Burley Kane, I'll introduce him quickly and let him kind of give a rundown of everything that he does. Is the State Director for Americans for Prosperity here in New Mexico. And he's been working on this front for years and years and years, seen lots of success in terms of both education and implementation of certain things here in New Mexico, not just in this field, but in a variety of fields. And so he is actually the State Director for our other partner who is helping us put this webinar series together. Burley, go ahead and jump on. And
thanks, Ruben. Thanks, Shannon. Thank you guys for having us. It's great to co-sponsor this event and the series. Trade Builds New Mexico is a series that we put together with a series of partners because it's an important part of the effort of New Mexico's success. As an economist, I've studied it a long time, looked at the barriers that we create when government steps into the negotiations between businesses and between the client, the customer, and the business. And at Americans for Prosperity, we exist to break barriers for the individual, to build a society of mutual benefit, and through that to help each one of us flourish at our highest potential. And free trade, or the ability to trade without the barriers of government in a way that destroys the economy like this has, it creates that opportunity for each one of us to flourish. And I really appreciate the time today to talk about the options that we have to break through these barriers and to enjoy more success in New Mexico.
Well, thank you so much, Burley. And I know that part of this Trade Builds New Mexico team is our friend, John Purcell. John, if you could hop on and share a little bit about this collaboration, introduce yourself and tell us what you do.
Yeah, thanks so much. Really appreciate the opportunity. I want to thank everybody for joining us today. So as Shannon mentioned, my name is John Purcell. I'm with Stand Together, which is a large philanthropic community working to drive change across a variety of issue sets, many of them that Ruben and Burley chatted about, where we feel that there are issues that are holding folks back. And, we work on everything from immigration, criminal justice reform, immigration policy, trade policy, tech and innovation. So a lot of stuff that, matters deeply to the business community and is crucial for the success of the economies, the communities that we all live and serve. So part of Trade Builds New Mexico is a broader initiative called Trade Builds America. And what we've kind of found is that it's really important to, while doing education on the importance of free trade and the free exchange or voluntary exchange of goods as being the best way to allow American companies to thrive and create more jobs, is really to kind of localize the stories. So we're really excited to partner with the Albuquerque Hispano Chamber in Denver. We're doing Trade Builds Denver. We're partnering with the World Trade Center there and several other business communities and business leaders who are joining the campaign, whether it's co-branded or sharing their stories, video vignettes. But the real key is just to create content and create buzz and awareness for how much access to global markets, having good trade policy in place really will allow American businesses to thrive. If you take those kind of handcuffs off them, there's no holding back American businesses. So it's a storytelling campaign, just like this one, where we're trying to capture good content, create a network of leaders who can amplify their voice and be part of this effort. And we want to be part of other efforts that are promoting free trade, as well as our other pilot campaign that we're launching is Trade Builds Virginia, where we are partnering with the Virginia Manufacturers Association, the Trucking Association there, as well as the Chamber. So our real goal of working with these groups and where we're excited to be here today is it provides a platform for us to engage America's prosperity activists and folks and communities that work with us from the advocacy side of things, as well as tell and educate one another on engaging actual business leaders and the members that Shannon and the great staff at the Albuquerque Hispano Chamber all represent. So by bringing our voices together, we feel like we can amplify this to new audiences, and it makes folks realize and help them understand that trade isn't something that just happens in Washington, D.C. or somewhere overseas, but it really is local, and there's a lot of opportunities for leaders to work on these issues locally. So before handing it back, I just wanted to kind of share a high-level overview of what we're seeing nationally, and then some more specific areas that we've been chatting about as being really important.
John, do you mind if I jump in and introduce the rest of the panel? We'll come back and start with you.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much. And speaking of partners here at the Hispano Chamber, I'd like to introduce you to Mr. Jason New with the New Mexico Department of Agriculture. Jason, please introduce yourself and what you do.
Hey, Shannon. Thanks for having me today. I work with the New Mexico Department of Agriculture and have been for the last 10 years, formerly international trade specialist. Now I'm the division director of the Marketing and Economic Development Division at the New Mexico Department of Ag. And as you know, our focus is on promoting the viability and advancement of New Mexico agriculture and those affiliated industries. other than marketing and economic development, we have a lot of different divisions that the Department of Ag does, and our affiliation also with New Mexico State University. And that is to promote a fair marketplace, food protection, safety, and the beneficial use of natural resources. You and I have worked together on a number of occasions on bringing in buyers and importers and distributors from other countries to meet with companies in and around New Mexico. And we continue to look forward to that opportunity. But thanks again for having me today.
Thank you, Jason. We will be back in touch soon. And just as we've been doing throughout this whole series, we are always interested in engaging local business owners who are living the theme, whichever that may be for the day, and how they make sense and fit into this ecosystem that trade builds. And so today with us, we have Mr. Bob Feinberg. We're very honored to have you, Bob. We thank you so much for taking time out of your day today. Could you please introduce yourself, your company, and then of course we're going to get back to all the details of what you do, but please introduce yourself.
Apologize. Shannon, thank you. I was saying that I got invited and introduced to this whole Hispano Chamber of Commerce panel on Thursday afternoon. So everything you're going to hear is as usual from here, but no notes. I've been in New Mexico 35 years from Las Vegas, Nevada. Have been in the real estate business for 35 years, commercial. Part owner in a company called Colliers. It's an international company, 400 offices globally. About 12 years ago, I went to Israel with Mayor Chavez on a sister cities proclamation with the city of Rehovot. Prior to that, I lived there in 83 and 85 on a kibbutz during the Lebanon War in the Lebanon, on the border of Lebanon. And I became enamored with Israel. I'm just a typical Jewish guy, born in America, had a bar mitzvah, blah, blah, blah. And the Jews in America are way different than the Jews in Israel. Imagine getting up, coming out of the womb with the Uzi and going to the coffin with the Uzi and creating all that they've created in Israel. It's amazing. If you ever Google inventions from Israel, you'll be amazed, from the cell phone to the dual processor to all sorts of medical and water devices. So during our trip there, the Secretary of Economic Development for the State of Israel asked us when he was in Marty's office, each one of us, what we were going to do for the State of Israel. Long story short, I represent Lowe's. 3 years after that trip, Lowe's was buying 14 Israeli products from Israeli manufacturers that they sold in their stores. I don't know today if they're still doing it. But while we were on the tour, Roe Madai is this gentleman's name. He said, "You need to be in the water business." And I looked up at him and I said, the only thing I know about water is I used to run it when I brush my teeth and now I turn it off. And he said, "Come to the water convention." I said, "What's a water convention?" Every other year, there is a convention in Israel called WATEC. Its sister conventions are held every year in America, either in Chicago or New Orleans, called WEFTEC. You walk in the Israeli Convention Center, 250,000 square feet of space, Chevron, Exxon, Shell, Schlumberger, all the big oil and gas people, and then many, many people that I'd never heard of, filtering, blah, blah, all sorts of business, a whole world that I didn't know about. Got enamored, got introduced to a guy who most of your spouses may know, his mother, Ronald Lauder. He is the son of Estee Lauder. He's the 350 wealthiest guy in the world, or he was at that time. And he had an epiphany one day. He woke up, he told his brother Donald, "I'm not going to be in the cosmetics business any longer. There isn't a reason in the world why everybody in the world shouldn't be entitled to a clean glass of water." no matter where they are, what color they are, what language they speak, free, not free, everybody is entitled to water. And when you're that wealthy, you can pretty much follow any dream that you have or any epiphany that you have. And subsequent to that time, he's purchased 7 different types of water companies and anaerobic digestion companies around the world with over 7,000 installations. He turned RWL Water into a company called Fluence today, which is listed on the Australian Stock Exchange. A lot of intricate details to get where I'm at today, but I came back to America, formed a company called Watergy with my partner, Ron Bohannon. You may know the father, Bohannon Houston. Ron is an engineer for 30 years. We did all the Lowe's and Home Depot deals together. I did the real estate, he did the engineering. And he's the perfect partner because in the water business, it's human health, and just a guy with a mouthpiece and a sales guy isn't going to get it done. You gotta get quantified. So very quickly, Ron and I represent 2 products manufactured in Israel. One is desal, and the other is a wastewater treatment system that are at the edge of technology. I don't know how much further you want me to go before there's questions.
So Bob, if you can hang right there, I want to start back to kind of introduce the topic today and kind of get the audience following what we're doing. So if you can hang right there, we'll come back to that story in just a bit. I want to jump over to John. So John was talking about some stats, and I want to let you guys know something really quick. We've been doing this, like Ruben said, I want to say 5 or 6 times already. And one thing that we've been really good at doing is really portraying what trade is in any community, in your state, and in the country. And how important understanding trade is, not just for the small business owners that we're trying to engage, but also for the consumer, for people to understand. And we've been using this really great graphic that was a hamburger. I'm going to ask Burley now. I believe he has a pencil one that if you can send to us, we'll change that out for the next one. But we want to bring that up just really quick. It's a great way for those that are listening in to kind of understand what trade means and the importance of these topics that we're doing. And Burley does a really quick minute on how the burger works. I think it's important for everybody to understand how, when we come together to create something and you're using it, you don't really realize what goes into it, and the importance of what John said about, the proper trade agreements and collaborations and partnerships and helping to build trade. So we're going to pull that up to the screen. I'm going to have Burley go over it. But it's exciting to know that every time you guys bite into a burger, you are really eating an international burger, whether you think you are or not. And yeah, please do. So Angelique is pulling up the screen. Burley,
great,
yes,
if you could.
If
you could pull that up.
Yeah, she's getting it.
Thanks. So you look at a burger. Burger's pretty simple, tasty, it's great, it's American icon, it's classic. Pretty sure it's invented here, but I'll take that credit until we know otherwise. We'll take it. So this is an identified understanding of something like USMCA, which has recently negotiated and revised the NAFTA agreement. It just codifies some of the conversations that people have on a normal basis in a trade agreement, much like what we could do with China or other countries. And it just helps expedite some of the tension points. But it also highlights what happens in trade. So you look at something like a burger, and you look at the fact that the bun is baked in California, the flour comes from Canada, Saskatchewan. The beef, it comes from Mexico. They raise it in Alberta, and this doesn't always happen with the same exact cow, but they have all these processes that ends up in Nebraska and Colorado. If you ever go up there just north of us here, as I'm sure many of you have, you've seen fields full of cattle. You get great cheese from Wisconsin, not football, but good cheese. Bacon, pigs, born and raised Manitoba, processed in Iowa. Arizona comes from the west. Lettuce comes from Arizona to the west. You get great part of the burger. I don't know if everybody gets these, but in New Mexico, we definitely love some guacamole on our burger. Avocado from Michoacan. You get jalapenos from Chihuahua, some garlic from Zacatecas, some tomato from Ontario, white onion from Colorado, cilantro comes from California. And I said the same joke last time. If you can't taste cilantro, I feel for you, but I'll take the cilantro if you won't eat it. Lime juice from Colima, and of course some ketchup from Ohio. Onions, mushrooms from British Columbia and Canada, and tomatoes from Ontario. So just with those 3 countries, you see how much complexity and dynamics go into just a burger, and what it takes to make your favorite lunchtime meal. And you can do this with any product that you use on a daily basis or an infrequent basis. And it only gets more complex as the dynamics of the products that are included in something are brought to the fore. And it's a good example of how these trade negotiations mean a lot to all of us. Every one of these components, when there's barriers that are imposed artificially by governments, in New Mexico, we've already spent $96 million in trade tariffs. Now, that didn't go to the New Mexico government. That went to the Trump administration. That was taken at the border and it came into the United States and is no longer allowed into New Mexico. So that's gone. And it's a dynamic, really painful problem for the importers and exporters who bring you the burger. So it's a great way to start the conversation.
Thank you, Burley, because every time you bite into a burger now, you're gonna think twice about where all those products came from. But that is the purpose of what we're doing today. So let's get into some of that data. I know today's topic is a new market expansion, and what's really great is I know that Jason and Bob are going to fit really good into this. But I want to start with John and talk a little bit about some of those stats and some of that data that he was going to continue with when we moved on to introduce. So John, if you'll touch on that for a few minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. So, again, we're so glad to have this opportunity to connect with all the business leaders and folks on the phone who are probably very well connected with how much it means to their business. But just on a high level, good trade policies in place will go a long way to help New Mexico businesses thrive and succeed and really pull through the difficult time that the economy is going through right now. So just some high level stats, so overall annual exports for New Mexico, it's $83.7 billion. There's over 200,000 trade dependent jobs. Manufacturing accounts for 3.5 billion. Ag is close to 1 billion. And then businesses overall in the state that export are 1,316. So you can really understand the sort of these access to global markets is really key and important for whether it's small business owners who are looking to expand their customer base and increase their sales and profits, allowing them to have create more jobs or better paying jobs. I think from the ag industry, predictable markets are really key for them to make the best decisions possible. So with the retaliatory tariffs, the tariffs are going through, the subsidy, there's just a whole host of issues that our friends in ag are feeling, and it's hurt their businesses because of a lack of leadership, really kind of putting these industries into the best place to succeed. And I think the list goes on. We can look at it from the consumer aspect, where international trade allows them to increase their purchasing power and buy things at lower prices. So those are kind of the high level areas specific. As far as our kind of views, objectives out there is we're looking to some of the near-term issues, whether it comes to kind of medical supplies and making sure that those are able to come in to our country and we're able to source them. So there's some issues that we've been watching around, a nationalized industrial policy. We've been working again through collecting stories and having gatherings like this to really promote trade liberalization through free trade agreements. I think the good example is U.S. and the UK that has been in the works. There's no kind of denying that we need to get our approach right on China and combating some of the practices that they've been going through. We're also feel it's really key as kind of the narrative for trade just kind of evaporated, or support from it outside of the business community really evaporated about 2 years ago. So we've been doing what we can to educate policy makers about the trade deficit, and also working with local and federal officials on really encouraging Congress to assert its proper role, as per laid out by the Constitution. So lots of efforts that we have under works, from campaigns efforts like this, lobbying, grassroots activations, supporting policy research, messaging research, op-eds, public events. So there's lots of ways we'd love to engage everybody on this call. You can please find more about some of our campaign efforts on tradebuildsnewmexico.com. So with that, I'm happy to stop, take any questions, or Shannon, wherever you'd like to, go next.
So John, I'm glad you brought that up, and let's close up the hour with that information for sure. Ruben's done really good about highlighting the work that Trade Builds New Mexico is doing. We'll highlight that website. We'll make sure and post it in the link. But guys, on that website's where you're going to be able to find all of this amazing information and ways to connect to help grow and scale your business, whether it's with trade or learning more about it to see if your business is ready for that. So we're going to hang tight, and Ruben will definitely close us up with that. I want to jump over to Jason New, who I've had the pleasure of working on many projects with over the years. When it comes to different types of trade in different, speaking of new market expansion, in the past few years, we brought in several countries to learn about our beer, wine, and spirits industry, and really enabled some businesses to be able to learn more about export and what needs to be done to grow their business. But Jason, take it away. Share with us. I know that you're working with many, many businesses. I know you work with Wastewater, so tell us all about that.
Yeah, thanks, Shannon. So we work with a number of companies into different products, all ag, food and ag related. As you know, New Mexico has several strengths in the ag sector. For instance, pecans. It's one of our top exports, 207 million, I think, in 2018. And dairy products, we're one of the top 10 dairy producers in the U.S. So we export a lot of different products. Produce to Canada. We're starting to make inroads into Mexico with craft beer and wine and spirits. Bob talked a little bit about Israel. We had a new project that was coming online for dried fruit and nuts going to Israel this year. Of course, it's going to be bumped into next. But yeah, we partner with a number of USDA organizations. They're called MAP or FAS cooperators. That stands for Foreign Ag Service or Market Access Program. And we leverage funding through those organizations to help New Mexico companies export. And that primary goal is to develop those export relationships and to seek out and find and get informed on new markets. So I've been all over the world, and I've taken New Mexico companies all over the world to meet with those buyers and importers. We've been to China, Southeast Asia, Japan, Canada, Mexico, Europe, South America, you name it. Some of our bigger success stories have been around pecans and dairy products. And we've been looking to make inroads for new and products like salsas and sauces and different spice products. So we've done quite a few. We've had a lot of success stories in the past, and we're looking for more. Some of those examples that you've given us, I think, for 3 years now, I think, Shannon, we brought in buyers, groups and delegations from Mexico, Europe, Japan.
Italy, Japan, yeah, Europe. Mm-hmm.
And they've toured breweries, wineries, distilleries to meet our processors and producers and they love that story. They love to taste our products. We always make a big lasting impression, and they never forget New Mexico.
Well, we have had fun with that. What are some of the unique products right now in your world, Jason, that New Mexico is producing when it comes to food and or beverage? Something unique to New Mexico that is, I've heard some crazy things that we import in, but what about some of the things that we're looking to either export or we're already doing?
So as you know, I've hit the big areas of dairy, tree nuts. We export beef, but the more unique products and are probably going to be centered around some of those that have the cultural relevance. So we've started to see some interest in some of our salsas, our chili industry, our pepper industry. We have started to see some expansion in the fresh market sales for fresh green chili into Canada. And we've already started to see some inroads on some specialty sauces and salsas into Canada as well, and Japan. We talked about craft beer. We're New Mexico's becoming, definitely on the national scene, and partnering with the Brewers Association. New Mexico's actually starting to see and become internationally relevant, and so we've started to see some interest in Mexico, so Mexico City and Juarez, in some of our craft beers, and we've seen some success stories in some of our spirits. So our whiskeys and gins and vodkas are starting to see some opportunities as well. And there's a hodgepodge of different things like lavender products, organic nutraceuticals. There's a lot of different unique products that New Mexico's producing and starting to export.
So I'm glad that you brought that up. And again, just hearing the words, I think is important for the people that are listening and that are going to be watching this video to go, wait a minute, I have a red chili this, or a green chili cookie, or a red chili syrup, or a, whatever you may have. And how do I get into possibly getting that, exported, and how do I get it into a specialty type store? And what Jason was talking about is, these buyers that are coming in from out of the country, they're buyers of all sorts. They have, high-end liquor stores. They're buying for large grocery chains. They're buying for resorts. I mean, there's lots of ways that your product can fit in when you think, oh, nobody wants that, or I can't reach that. It's really important that you take the opportunity to log on to these websites we're talking about today. We'll make sure everybody closes up with their website, and we'll make sure and add it to the link as well, so that you can follow up and ask the right questions and find out if you have a unique product, food or other, that might be a great way to help you scale your business to the next level. And speaking of scaling your business, I want to move back over to Bob. Bob does have a great story, and his product is extremely unique. So, Bob, if you could tell us more specifically about the product and the process and what you're doing with that, and what is the ultimate goal in order to serve the community with your product.
Thank you. Jason, we should have a sidebar on agriculture, drip irrigation, New Mexico State University, and a project that I attempted to get going so we could do more than pecans, chili, and alfalfa. We have everything that it takes to do that. That's another story, and our native people could get back in the farming business, as they should be, because we're going to need double the supply of food over the next 25 years in the world, and we could be a big exporter of that. But probably some of you folks from New Mexico Tech understand that New Mexico has one of the largest inland deposits of brackish water known to man. We are loaded with oceans of water underneath us. They're trapped from volcanoes and the evolution of the earth. To give you an example, the Tularosa Basin, that's one of 6 major basins, and there's probably a dozen that are anywhere from a third to a half that size. The Tularosa Basin is the size of Lake Erie. I don't know if that resonates, but that's a lot of water. It's all salt water. So brackish water is basically seawater. This seawater, the oceans, the Mediterranean, the Pacific, the Atlantic, the Indian, they have constituents in them, and they are measured in TDSs, total dissolved solids. All the oceans in the world average between 30 and 35,000 TDS, which, as you know, in El Paso, they have the Caleb Bailey Hutchinson desal plant that brings 57 million gallons a day into El Paso from the Gulf. In California, in Carlsbad, San Diego County, it took them 20 years to get it done, but they have the nation's largest desal facility for seawater. Knowing what I was told and educated by my Israeli counterpart, I came back to New Mexico and began a conversation with Mike Hightower, who most of you should probably know Mike. Mike is a 30-year fellow, retired now at Sandia Labs. He is our country's expert on water and security energy, water and energy security. He testifies in Congress, he lectures all over the world, and he is a water expert. So this, blame it on Obama, blame it on Trump, blame it on man, this bad water that we're going through, we are actually in a 300-year weather climate change. Proof is at Sandia Labs and Arizona State University tree ring studies. We in the Southwest are in 120-year of the 300-year drought, dry season. There's 180 years left. We're going to have to deal with it. We're going to have some wet years like we've had, but ostensibly it's going to be dry and hot for the next 180 years. We will run out of water. Albuquerque, the dichotomy of that is Albuquerque probably is the most prepared city in the country that has the only 100-year water plan. And that was because of the San Juan Chama pact that they made. And Albuquerque's in great shape for water. But everything out of Bernalillo County, there's a problem. There's a big problem. With desalination and all our brackish fields, we have the ability not only to pay Texas back like in a minute, but to give every city, state, county, village, tribe, all the water they need. And for the last 3 governors, I've been pounding them. Susana Martinez was sitting next to me in remember Marcello's, the old steakhouse in Uptown? I walked in, she was sitting there with the whole crew, and she said, "Oh, Bob, what are we going to talk about water today?" Because she knows I'm just pounding them about it. And I said, "Governor, I want to ask you a question." She said, "What?" We're sitting right next to each other. And I said, tell me what our greatest natural resources are: oil, gas, and grazing. I said, "It's the first time I've been able to do this, but I get to tell a governor she's wrong." She laughed at me because she knows I'm a little goofy. She said, "What do you mean?" And I started to explain to her about our brackish water supply that she was not aware of. And Ryan Canogliosi, I think his last name is, called me from the Suburban. She said,
It's Cangelosi, Ryan Cangelosi.
Cangelosi. He said to me, "The governor really liked what you said, and she wants you to keep pounding it." So 6 months later, I took Roe, the guy that took me to Israel with the mayor the first time, up to Susanna's office. We offered a complete round trip, free, on Israel, to go there, look at the water. She never took advantage of it. Last November, Michelle and Alicia Keys spent 6 hours during the Democrat governor's national meeting that was held in Israel or in the Mideast. They spent 6 hours at our 2 plants in Israel. So here's the goal. Here's the mission. If we just sold, believe it or not, and Israel has had the technology for desal for 50 years. They had to. They have no friends that are neighbors. The only thing they have is the Mediterranean, and they figured out how to make it potable. And 80% of the water that's drunk in Israel is desalinated water. They also recycle 80% of their wastewater and turn it to crops. Ron and I just sold the first ever Israeli manufactured desal system that's ever been sold in the United States, which is amazing to me because they're like the fathers of desalination. But since America is kind of piggish about their water and we don't realize how lucky we are in a lot of parts of the country, we never think about it because we only react and we're not proactive. The Laguna sits on what's called the Rio Puerco reservoir. It's a major brackish reservoir. We sold this desal system to them. It'll be commissioned in August, and they're going to be using it for the casino business, or to run their casino. But we really think they're testing it to see if they can become a water utility for the city of Rio Rancho, who is absolutely out of water. Also, potentially be able to feed West Albuquerque, where the Water Utility Authority doesn't want to run utilities yet, Santa Lena and all that. The second product that we sold is a wastewater treatment system developed in Israel that's in a container. And by the way, the desal systems are all stackable. So they're in containers. You can use 20 of them for up to 7 million gallons a day before you have to build a plant. The desal system that was invented in Israel uses 25% of what traditional wastewater treatment systems use. But on site, we can take the wastewater and turn it back into potable, ag, and make it as clean as industrial level, which is going to clean up all the man camps. We are the second state they regulated to approve this system. Our new New Mexico Environmental Secretary, James Kinney, great guy from the oil and gas industry. I have never seen a public entity promote a private industry like this organization or that entity is doing. The first state to approve the product was California. You know, if you get something approved in California, you can get approved anywhere. And we took it on. There's, I don't know if you all are familiar with how bad the oil and gas industry treats wastewater in our Permian Basin in New Mexico. The business was so radical and so many people working in the industry, and it will come back, that wastewater was just being taken through a hose and dumped on the ground. There's 372 man camps at that time last summer. And another 2 weeks, they were going to shut 90 of them down, which would affect Chevron, ExxonMobil, all the big oil and gas guys. The goal is to educate New Mexico about this. And the Israelis told Governor Grisham and Secretary Keyes that if Ron and I could get 10 of these little systems sold, they would bring both plants to New Mexico and begin manufacturing desal systems and wastewater treatment plants here somewhere in New Mexico for the entire Southwest, because they know they've got a 180-year business to look at.
So, Bob, that is a lot of information. I think that what is really great about it is that the audience that's watching can start to kind of sift through the importance, what I picked up, the importance of, you know, potable drinking water and water that is available here in New Mexico, and the equipment and the machinery that it's going to take to process that, to go through the desalination process in order for us to have that in years to come. And I think that what we're learning about with Bob's story is the equipment that is available, and through his trade, if you will, in his business with Israel. And how it comes back home and supports us, what we're doing here. And so I think that that's an important story. And thank you, Bob, for sharing. I learned a lot of stats in there, but it's important that we do understand it's not just water or oil and gas or energy. You know, there's so many things that build in New Mexico, and these are great examples of new market expansion, ways to get into this market completely with a brand new technology and what have you. So that was really great. Thank you, Bob. So we have a few minutes left, but what I wanted to do is I wanted to jump over to Ruben, and I wanted Ruben to share with us a little bit about the website, what we can expect, how can we find more information if you're a business owner, and how we can, you know, team up with groups like this to collaborate and really help to build New Mexico businesses up and out of New Mexico and out of the country.
Sure. First, I just want to mention, especially in light of our topic for the day, which is new markets, new market expansion. One of the things that I hadn't thought about before I got on the call, which I found rather interesting, especially after hearing Bob. I mean, Jason was telling us a lot about how, especially in the agriculture industry, we're seeing a lot of opportunities in new markets outside of New Mexico. But I hadn't really thought as much about the potential of New Mexico being a new market for other industries all over the world, and how certain, you know, business owners can actually use New Mexico as a place where we can get people who are creating products and services in other places to look at us as a new market for them. So there's a lot of opportunity there that I think is just fantastic. In terms of the website, remember, we are looking for other partners as well, especially small businesses, completely free to you. We want to tell your story. We want to put together some little videos, a video series maybe about your business, how you deal with trade, how you interact with trade, both you know, in the United States and internationally. And just tell your story, give your business a little bit of promotion. Remember, you can find all the information about Trade Builds New Mexico, what we're doing, what we're trying to accomplish with this on our website, which is www.tradebuildsnewmexico.com. You'll see our mission there. You'll see some of the other things that we've done across the United States. You'll get a little bit of information as to how we can partner together. We can help you as a business if you're looking at expanding and all those kinds of things, but also want to give you the opportunity to be able to tell your story about how you are experiencing trade, and even experiencing trade in this interesting season, in this COVID time. I'm so proud of so many of our New Mexico businesses who are just knocking it out of the park, despite all of the extra barriers that have kind of come out of nowhere from this virus and everything that's going on with it. So yeah, tradebuildsnewmexico.com, reach out to us, contact the chamber, let them know, you know, if you want to get involved or you want to partner up. It's really an exciting and incredible opportunity for all of our New Mexico small business owners, especially those who really are involved in trade.
So Ruben, you bring up a great point, and that is New Mexico is so important to the trade economy around the US and around the world. There's so many things that we do here, unique to our state, unique to our culture. One of that is food, for sure, food and beverage. But I know that we do a lot. We recently have had other panelists on that have spoken to some of our great manufacturing down in the Santa Teresa area of our state. And so anyways, we're bringing it back. We're excited because there's so much information and opportunity, I think, is the big thing right here. Opportunity for small businesses to take advantage of growing. And so with that being said, I'd like to close up with or a final kind of question, if you will. But you brought up a good point, which was COVID and the pandemic that we're in right now, and the amount of supplies that are needed into our state, of course, all over the country, but into our state, and how that has offered opportunity to so many businesses that maybe otherwise would have never been in that industry or had thought that that was something that they wanted to go with. And so that is a perfect example of how trade builds New Mexico, and it helps us grow our businesses. So before we say thank you to our sponsors and a thank you to the panel, Burley, I'd like to have you tell us your closing thoughts on this topic before we get ready to close up.
Yeah, well, thank you. Shannon, I appreciated everything that you guys have done so far. It's been a great, wonderful series. Thank you so much for letting us co-sponsor these events with you guys. It's a great topic for all of us to be discussing right now when we're working outside of our houses. We are not able to go into shops the way we are normally used to. We're not able to run supply chains the way we're normally used to. It's affecting everything around the world, and it highlights how connected all of us are. I was reminded the other day as an economist and digging through these things, the Smoot-Hawley tariffs that were imposed in 1930 were led to the Great Depression. It's a really tough time to have tariffs on the businesses who are trying to survive COVID, who are trying to make it work for all of us in New Mexico, and to bring new markets to New Mexico, to bring new products at the best price they can to New Mexico without the government taking out a tax to the federal government because they want to equalize something that couldn't be a conversation in a trade deal. All around, this is an important topic. Your story is valuable to us. I was born and raised in New Mexico, and I want the state to flourish. And your story is the most powerful story. So please, if you're watching this and you want to tell your story, get in touch with us, get in touch with the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Go to tradebillsnewmexico.com and let us know how you're doing. Let us know your story and tell us how we can empower you to solve these issues you're facing with the government's imposition of a tariff tax. We know it's hurting companies. We know that people are being fired over this. We know that prices are going up on products because of this, that products are stopping being allowed to be in countries because of this, that New Mexico is not delivering to them now. And so we ask that you guys in those new market endeavors, reach out to us. And if you have other associates and businesses that you know who are involved in trade, come forward and talk to us, and we'll get your information out to the public and let them know how important you are to the success of New Mexico. So thank you, Shannon. I'm really looking forward to the next series.
Well, I want to thank you guys, and just to reiterate what Burley and Ruben have stated, we are looking for businesses. I believe John mentioned, right around 1,000 plus businesses that are doing, trade as part of their business and what they're doing, and we'd love to see those numbers double, if not, and what can we do, by helping to share this information. Maybe it's just sharing the information. Maybe it's connecting you to the right people. I know that every single webinar that we have been on, we've been able to connect panelists. So I'm going to make sure that Bob and Jason are connected and they can have a further conversation about the importance of water and that water technology. And so again, these have been great webinars and great training series for us as well in ways to connect with you. If you have a story, if you are a business that is working in trade and import and export, please reach out. We'd love to get you on video. We'd love to share that on the Trade Builds New Mexico website. Jason, if you know of any businesses, please let us know. We just want to share the importance of what that does for a business, what that does for an economy and a whole economic ecosystem, so that we can all work together and grow definitely in prosperity, if you will, Burley, and become a better community for sure. So before we leave, a big shout out to the LIBRE Initiative for their support this month in our series. We appreciate the whole Trade Builds New Mexico team, Burley, John, everybody, Angela behind the scenes. I want to say a big thank you to Jason with New Mexico Department of Agriculture, a friend of the chamber. Looking forward to so many more trade missions and whatever that may look like once we have passed through this COVID time. It's really engaging to spend 3 or 4 days with buyers from out of the country with a different perspective and learning from them and working with them and helping our businesses grow at the same time. And I would like to say thank you big time to Bob. We appreciate you, Bob. You're a staple here in our community for sure. And I love your office, so I'd like to steal it, by the way.
Thank you.
Screenshot this to my boss and say, why can we have those offices?
I'd like to say one thing. First of all, thank all of you for what you guys and ladies are doing. It's wonderful. I feel like a native after 35 years here. My old buddies in Vegas in the casino business always ask me what's it like living there. And I said, we're like the most successful person in the world. What do you mean by that? You look out the window, you look at the sky, you look at our mountains, you look at everything we have. What's the most successful person in the world got? Everything money can't buy. We've got that. The dichotomy to that is we've got everything we can make money with. And the problem that I've seen with this state, we don't know how to sell it. True New Mexico has done the best job thus far of selling the wonderful pluses that we have in our state, the natural resources and the places to go and the skiing and the hiking, fishing, hunting, all that. But we as a state, we fall down on that, and we just need to do that better. From Sandia Labs to Los Alamos Labs, what they do, 9 out of 10 people don't know that you can walk up to the front door of Sandia, knock on the door and say, I invented this jiggy here, but it's still not doing one thing that I need. And they'll say, come right in, we can help you. 9 out of 10 New Mexicans don't know that. Think about the rest of the country that doesn't know that. So I don't mean to be closing on a negative note. I think it's great.
Bob, that's positive, and I don't think that's a negative note at all. And I think that's something that we will tackle in a future webinar, because you are right. I think it comes down to the knowledge of resources and the knowledge of opportunity, and that's our job to educate. It sounds like the state needs a salesman, a worldwide salesman. So, maybe we can lobby for a new position at the state level. But I think that there is opportunity everywhere around us. We live in a beautiful state. We live in a state wealthy in natural resources
and knowledge.
Yeah, and knowledge, absolutely knowledge. And that's what happens when we do these. We bring it together to collaborate and share. So I want to thank everybody for being on the panel today. I look forward to seeing you guys on Wednesday, where we talk about innovation, and there's going to be some fun stories there as well. But remember to reach out to us at the Hispano Chamber website, www.ahcnm.org, where you'll find a whole list of these webinars under the COVID initiatives. Just click the LIBRE Initiative. And you can also find all the information you need at Trade Builds New Mexico website as well. So you guys have a great rest of the week. We look forward to seeing you Wednesday. Have a great day out there, everybody.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Jason, let's get in touch with one another.